Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I'm Dragonfly9078, and today I'll be building Jafar, Grand Vizier of Agrabah. So first a bit of background. There's a couple different interpretations of Jafar, but whether he was a malicious schemer who lusted for power, or a devoted public servant whose inability to solve his kingdom's problems led him to desperate measures, the fact remains that he was the Royal Vizier, the Sultan's right-hand man and most trusted advisor. With the aid of a magical scarab pendant, he discovered the tiger-headed entrance to a cave filled with wonders, including the lamp containing the genie who would later grant Jafar his powers. So what do we want from this build? Well, as Royal Vizier and advisor to the Sultan, Jafar needs to be knowledgeable about a great many subjects, including science, politics, and religion. He also took an interest in the mystical arts long before he gained powers of his own, specifically the arts of alchemy and divination. Eventually, though, he did obtain the genie's lamp and got his own magical powers, becoming, in his own words,
the most powerful sorcerer in the world!
Looking over at ability scores, I'll be using the standard point array. If you want to roll for stats, that's fine, just make sure your charisma is high enough to multiclass. We'll start off with a 10 in strength. As Royal Vizier, Jafar lives a life of luxury, rather than one of hard labor like the rest of the citizens of Agrabah. Dexterity will be 12, he wears a cape everywhere, and it's hard not to trip over those, and will make Constitution 13. Jafar doesn't do work out in the sun, but he still lives in the desert, and he wears all black, so he definitely needs to be able to stand the heat. Whether he's a hero or a villain, Jafar definitely tends to be the smartest guy in the room, so intelligence will be 14, though he can be prone to lapses in judgment, impatience, short-sightedness, and not recognizing Aladdin because he's wearing different clothes, so we're gonna dump wisdom. And we'll finish up with a 15 in charisma since he's an exceptionally smooth talker, and the Sultan and Jasmine still believe him despite him being very obviously evil in the Disney version. Now Jafar is technically a human, but we do a lot of those on this channel, so I'm going to take this opportunity to lean into his snake motif and make him a Yuan-ti pureblood. We get +1 to intelligence and +2 to charisma, 60 feet of dark vision, immunity to poison damage and the poisoned condition, and advantage on any saves we make against spells and other magical effects. There are also a couple of spells that we can cast innately using our charisma. We learn Poison Spray, which deals up to 4d12 poison damage to a creature who fails a Constitution save, as well as Animal Friendship, which charms a beast if they fail a Wisdom save. We can cast Animal Friendship in an unlimited number of times, but we can only use it on snakes. The real draw of Yuan-ti Pureblood for us, though, is Suggestion. Once we hit level 3, we can cast it once per day, hypnotizing a creature with our staff if they fail a Wisdom save, compelling them to follow a course of action that we suggest, as long as we can make it sound reasonable. As a ranking member of a theocratic organization and a firm believer in the Golden Rule, which is to say,
Whoever has the gold makes the rules.
we'll make Jafar an Orjav representative, giving us proficiency in intimidation and religion, as well as the ability to get lower members of our hierarchy to do things via leverage. None of the standard classes really felt right to me to represent Jafar before he found the genie, so I'll be making him an expert, one of the Sidekick classes from Tasha's. As a sidekick, the size of our hit die is determined by our stat block. I tend to use a D8 as the standard hit die for player races, and fortunately the stat block for running Yuan-ti Purebloods as monsters uses D8s for their HP, so we're set. As an expert, we get a bunch of proficiencies. We get our choice of dexterity, intelligence, or charisma saves. I would say intelligence is probably the most in character. Light armor, and 5 skills. We're an advisor to the Sultan and a man of science and magic, so we'll grab Arcana, History, and Nature. But we're also a little on the sneaky sweet-talking side, so pick up Deception and Persuasion too. Since we're humanoid, we also get proficiency with simple weapons and 2 types of tools. Disguise kits will let us disguise as an old man to trick Aladdin, and alchemist supplies will let us make that potion Jafar uses to make the puff of smoke that he escapes with after Aladdin exposes his scheming. We are getting spells later, so we could have made these Disguise Self and Misty Step, but these are actually explicitly not magic. We see the disguised Jafar pull off his fake beard, and as for the smoke, well...
So I'm going to combine this bottle of potassium chlorate and this bottle of sodium bicarbonate. It will create a large cloud of smoke, which I'll use as a cover to make my escape. It will look as if something magical has happened, but it's simply a chemical reaction, not sorcery. Chemistry.
First level experts are also helpful, letting us use the help action using our bonus action. And when we get to second level, Cunning action further expands our bonus action by letting us use it to dash, disengage, or hide. Third level experts get Expertise, doubling our proficiency bonus for 2 of our skills. My picks here are Arcana and Nature because of how Jafar somehow made an indoor thunderstorm to power his crystal ball. He also probably had the mechanical know-how to do so himself, since it was in his secret lair so he wasn't, getting a contractor in there. So we'll grab the Skilled feat for proficiency with Tinker's Tools, as well as 2 more skills. We'll round off our knowledge base with Medicine, and pick up Performance as well, because Dylan Saunders is a goddamn national treasure, and I will fight you on that. Non-spellcaster sidekicks don't get anything at the levels where their proficiency bonus goes up, other than the proficiency bonus going up, so 5th level doesn't give us anything special. But at 6th level, we get Coordinated Strike, which extends the range of our help bonus action to 30 feet when we use it to help attack an enemy. Also, since it uses our bonus action, we can still attack, and though our help doesn't give us advantage on the attack, the next time we hit the targeted creature, we deal an extra 2d6 damage. 7th level experts get Evasion, letting us take no damage from a successful dexterity save and half damage on a fail, instead of half damage on a success and full damage on a fail, which pairs very nicely with our Yuan-ti magic resistance. Jafar never really has to deal with people shooting fireballs or lightning at him, he kind of dominates all of the fights until Aladdin tricks him. But he did demonstrate that he can just walk straight through fire, so I'm gonna count it. With our second ability score improvement, we'll pick Ritual Caster, giving us a ritual book containing 2 first-level ritual spells from a spell list of our choice that we can cast as rituals. My choice for this is Wizard. Guiding Hand points the way to a landmark with a floating glowing hand that we follow, which I'm fine flavoring as the Golden Scarab. And we can't build Jafar without giving him Iago, I wouldn't do that to you guys, so we'll get Find Familiar as well, reflavoring a raven as a parrot since ravens have the same mimicry abilities. One great thing about using Ritual Caster over, say, Magic Initiate, is that if we find higher level spells written down on a scroll, we can add them to our ritual book, as long as they are A, ritual spells, B, on the spell list that we chose for the feat, in this case Wizard, and C, no more than half of our total level. Thanks to the expanded spell list from Tasha's, the 4th level spell Divination fits all of these criteria, letting us ask the gods a single question, such as, who is the diamond in the rough? It even requires a 25 GP sacrifice, which I'm sure the Mystic Blue Diamond would more than qualify for. 9th level is another proficiency bonus increase, so we'll move on to 10th level for another feat. We're still in advisor mode, so go with Historian to round off our intelligence to 16, and to get expertise in history. Also, whenever we use the help action to help with an ability check, we can make a DC 15 history check. If we pass, whatever check we're helping with gets a bonus equal to our proficiency bonus. With 16 intelligence and expertise in history, we'll succeed as long as we roll at least a 4, and we'll automatically succeed every time by the end of the build. Our help gets even better at level 11 with Inspiring Help. Whatever creature we're helping can add a d6 to their d20 roll. If we were helping an attack roll, they can choose to add the d6 to their damage instead of their attack. Come to think of it, Jafar really was a fantastic advisor. He really should have just stuck with that. We'll get one last ability score improvement to round off our Constitution and Charisma, and then, finally, at long last, it's what you've all been waiting for.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm hand of our welcome for Sorcerer Jafar!
Jafar's a Warlock. Of course Jafar is a Warlock. He gets his magic from another entity, and there is literally a Genie Warlock patron. I know he wishes to be a sorcerer, but hey, Aladdin wished to be a prince, and all he got was a costume and a parade. Genies are tricky. Our Genie in particular is in fact a genie, going by his clearly chaotic good alignment and his friendship with the flying carpet, Jinn being the air-aligned variant. Our Genie vessel, of course, takes the form of the classic oil lamp. Once per day we can retreat into the lamp for a number of hours up to double our proficiency bonus, though we can leave early with our bonus action. This actually gives us a pretty fun method of travel, since Iago is actually strong enough to carry the lamp with us in it, letting us fly while relaxing in our pocket dimension. We can also unleash the Genie's Wrath once per turn when we hit with an attack roll, dealing extra damage equal to our proficiency bonus. Since our Genie is a genie, the damage is thunder. But for that we'll need to be making attack rolls, and luckily Jafar very clearly shoots beams of power that I'm comfortable calling Eldritch Blasts. We shoot up to 4 beams, split however we want among up to 4 targets, each one dealing 1d10 force damage. They are separate attack rolls though, so our Genie's Wrath can only apply to 1 every turn. We'll also pick up Prestidigitation, which can do a little bit of everything for any minor magical effects that we can't handle with our other spells. Our first level spells at this level are all about controlling and humiliating our enemies. Since we're an Orzhov representative, we have access to Command, forcing a creature to follow a 1-word order for a round if they fail a Wisdom save. We can target additional creatures if we use a higher level spell slot, and it specifically even lists Grovel as an example. Puppet forces a creature to move up to their speed in a direction of our choice if they fail a Constitution save. The spell description doesn't say if the creature has literal marionette strings attached to them though, so I'm going to assume that they do. Second level Warlocks get 2 Eldritch Invocations. Armor of Shadows helps shore up our AC a tiny bit by letting us cast Mage Armor at will without using up a spell slot, and Agonizing Blast makes our Eldritch Blast stronger by letting us add our Charisma modifier to each beam's damage. For our Pact Boon, I was tempted to go Pact of the Talisman and use the lamp as the talisman, but we already have the lamp thanks to the Genie's vessel, so we'll take Pact of the Blade, since Jafar very clearly made a new staff when he became a sorcerer after Aladdin smashed the old one. We also get second level spells, like Hold Person to paralyze a creature that fails a Wisdom save, and Cloud of Daggers to block our enemy's path with a wall of blades, dealing 4d4 slashing damage to any creature that passes through the space or starts its turn there. We'll cap off our Charisma with our next ability score improvement and pick up Create Bonfire to make a 5-foot cube of fire that lasts for up to a minute with concentration and deals up to 4d8 fire damage to any creature who passes through it and fails a dexterity save. My first choice for a spell to turn Raja into a kitten was Enlarge Reduce, but Warlocks actually don't get that, so we'll use Ray of Enfeeblement instead. We make a ranged spell attack, and if it hits, the affected creature deals half damage with its strength-based attacks for up to a minute. At the end of each of their turns, they can make a Constitution save to end the spell. 5th level gets us another Eldritch Invocation. None of the ones we can take are especially in flavor, but we can take Repelling Blast to let our Eldritch Blast push a creature it hits 10 feet back. This does stack with multiple beams though, so if you stack them all on one target, you can push them 40 feet back if they all hit. One of the first things Jafar does when he gets his magic is undo everything Aladdin wished for, so our first 3rd level spell is Dispel Magic. We automatically end all spells affecting a target that are of equal or lower level than the level of the spell slot we use to cast the Dispel Magic. For any higher level spells, we make a Charisma check, with a DC equal to 10 plus that spell's level. 6th level Genie Warlocks get Elemental Gift, giving us resistance to the damage type associated with our patron's Genie variety, in our case Thunder. We can also use our bonus action to get a 30-foot flying speed a number of times per day equal to our proficiency bonus. We keep the flying speed for 10 minutes and can hover in place as well. From our Orzhov list, we'll take Bestow Curse to put a debilitating curse on a creature who fails a Wisdom save. We choose between giving the target disadvantage on checks and saves made with the ability score of our choice, giving the target disadvantage on attacks against us, dealing an extra 1d8 necrotic damage to the target with our attacks and spells, or forcing the target to make a Wisdom save at the start of each of their turns, making them skip their turn on a fail. For our last Eldritch Invocation, we'll get extra snake-like by grabbing Sculptor of Flesh to let us turn into a giant snake by casting Polymorph once per day using one of our spell slots. We turn ourselves or another creature into a beast with a challenge rating equal to or lower than the target's. The target uses the stat block of the new form for up to an hour and reverts if it drops to 0 HP, returning to however many hit points they had before they changed. The beast restriction is a little annoying since if we could turn into monstrosities, we could pick one of the different kinds of Naga, so the best snake we can turn into is only the CR4 giant coral snake. Still, it's an extra 90 HP and a poisonous bite, so I'm not complaining. Much. Our Capstone is the 8th level of Warlock for one last ability score improvement and one last 4th level spell. For the ability score improvement, you can really bump whichever ability score you want. In my opinion, the most in-character option is Intelligence, but there's no real mechanical benefit, especially since at this point our Historian feat auto-succeeds without bumping our Intelligence up. So I could see picking Dexterity for more AC or Constitution for better concentration and more HP. Whichever you pick, there's still one more major magical feat of Jafar's that we haven't addressed, namely rocketing Aladdin in the Tower of the Palace hundreds of miles away. A teleportation spell that can affect an unwilling creature would have been great for this, but there's only one of those in the game and it's a 6th level spell, so we're going with Banishment instead. The target has to make a Charisma save. Failing that, they're banished to a harmless demiplane if they were on their native plane, or banished back to their native plane if they weren't. They're banished for up to a minute, but if they were banished to their home plane and the spell lasts the whole minute, they don't automatically return and have to find their own way back. Maybe, say, on a flying carpet. Now that the build is complete, the question becomes, how good is it? Well, Eldritch Blast is our main damage option, and it's a really very good damage option. Between Agonizing Blast, Genie's Wrath, and Coordinated Strike, we're getting an extra 2d6 plus 26 damage on top of the 4d10 that Eldritch Blast is already capable of, plus up to 40 feet of pushing from Repelling Blast. And if we're willing to spend a spell slot, we can get another 4d8 necrotic damage from Bestow Curse. Speaking of, most of our spells don't do damage, but they are powerful debuffs. Banishment and Polymorph in particular can completely shut targets out of an entire fight if they fail just one save. And like I said before, Jafar is an incredible advisor and has both the skills and souped up help action to prove it, giving what's effectively a permanent d6+6 bonus to any of his allies' ability checks. On the other hand, he needs to be alive to help, and he's kinda bad at that. Our AC is only 14, and it's actually lower as a snake, so even that extra 90 HP is not going to help for long. What's more, starting off as a sidekick means we only have one saving throw proficiency, and intelligence saves are pretty rare. We also have the fairly common problem that we have mostly concentration spells, but it's greatly compounded by the fact that we only have 2 spell slots per rest, so we need to make both of them count. And finally, from a flavor perspective, Jafar is a fantastic advisor, but he has no one to advise. He's great at supporting his friends, but he has no friends. Such a tragedy. It's almost poetic. I feel like I made what might seem like a couple of unusual choices for this build, especially because I used a sidekick class, so here are some alternate options. If you don't like sidekick classes on a player character, the Mastermind Rogue can work very similarly, especially since Jafar used to be a thief in the live-action remake, I guess? I don't know, I haven't seen it. I did think about Rogue, but I don't really like sneak attack for him. He doesn't really attack anyone until he gets his magic, and Uncanny Dodge also felt wrong. I don't know, he just really has big NPC vibes for me, I guess. If you do want to use Rogue instead, keep in mind that you'll need Dexterity to be at least 13 for multiclassing. There aren't really rules for multiclassing sidekicks, so for their minimums, I would say Charisma or Dexterity for experts, since they're most similar to bards and rogues, Strength or Dexterity for warriors, since they're, basically just fighters, and whatever ability score you pick for your spellcasting ability for spellcasters. The other big one is, why didn't I give Jafar Wish? Genie Warlocks do get it as a 9th level spell, and Jafar, canonically, does make wishes. Well, there's a couple reasons. First is that he isn't casting the spell himself, technically the Genie is. That could just be a reflavor though, so that's not really a big issue. The main reason is that I didn't want to go that high in Warlock levels. There were maybe 1 or 2 things he did magically that I didn't account for. I could see Jasmine's Hourglass Trap as maybe Flesh to Stone, but beyond that, I really have no idea what spells I could give him that would fit, not to mention all the Eldritch Invocations he would get. But you know what? Let's say I reflavored casting the spell as him wishing to the Genie, and let's say I went all the way to 17 levels of Warlock. I actually still wouldn't give Jafar Wish. So Jafar's wishes were to become Sultan, which is really just role-playing, and even the people in-universe didn't go along with it, so it didn't actually do anything. The Genie seems to have problems making people royalty. I mean, even Aladdin wished to be a prince and all he got was an outfit. It seems like the Genie just gave Jafar an outfit and gave Iago a hat and said, hey, you're Sultan now. But anyway, his second wish was to become a sorcerer, which is taken care of by our multiclass into Warlock in the first place, so we don't need a spell to reflect it. And his third wish was to become a Genie himself, which Wish technically can do, but it carries the risk of never being able to cast Wish ever again, which is way too big a risk for someone trying to become a Genie purely because Genies have the phenomenal cosmic power. No, what you would want to do is actually take True Polymorph instead. You would turn yourself into whatever Genie variant you like best, and then keep it up for the full duration so you stay a Genie permanently. And hey, actually going to 17 levels of Warlock would give you the 14th level Genie Warlock ability Limited Wish, to ask the Genie to replicate a 6th level spell, like say, Move Earth to move the palace. Why did the Genie do that? Jafar didn't wish for it, he still had 2 wishes left. Sultan, Sorcerer, Genie. I don't know, that just never made sense to me.
Bird, sometimes I feel as if you're my only friend in this world.
Fuck you!
Right.
I hope you enjoyed the build. If you have any feedback or suggestions for characters you'd like to see me build, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, friends. I will see y'all later.